Hey folks, Mike Johnson here. If it's got wheels and an engine, you're in the right place. On this channel, we dive into car repairs, maintenance tips, and everything you need to keep your ride running smooth. If you're into cars and want to keep learning, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. All right, enough talking. Let's get into it.
One of the biggest proofs of this new reality is the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, approval for series production of Terrafugia's personal aerial vehicle, Transition. So, to find out exactly how this personal aerial vehicle will work, let's start with the basics. How a flying car works. A flying car, as the name suggests, is a vehicle that can be flown in the air and used on the roads. This means, of course, that it must have the basic features of an airplane, such as propellers, and a car, such as road tires. It should be light enough to fly in the air and strong enough to move on the road. Because a flying car would have the ability to land and drive, it would have to be able to take the impact of the road and then continue uninterrupted, smoothly. In addition, it would have to be installed with additional safety features before being made available to the public. How modern flying cars work. Although we commonly use flying cars and road planes as synonyms, they have a slight difference, which is easy to spot. Flying cars are cars adapted for flight, while road-going aircraft are aircraft adapted for use on the road. The inventors of the first flying cars worked more on adapting a car to fly in the air, while recent inventions of flying cars have been in adapting an aircraft for tarmac roads. Whatever the case, a modern personal aerial vehicle will need to have the following characteristics, all linked to the basics discussed. Above engines, these motors should have enough power to lift the vehicle into the air and, at the same time, be able to provide controlled power to keep the vehicle moving on the road. The flying car will need to have an additional motor, if there is an engine failure during a flight. Aircraft propellers. Because the vehicle will be flying, it will obviously need the propellers, aircraft wings and wings, found on every aircraft. But since these wings won't be needed on the roads, obviously, they'll need to be easily detachable or foldable. Landing gear. To land the flying car on the ground, it will need to be equipped with the essentials found in the cockpit of a normal aircraft. It should be able to take the impact of the road and be able to balance itself for use on the road. Hardware. Needless to say, a flying car will need to be light, but have adequate ground mobility. On the road, a vehicle is more likely to be damaged, but slight damage to a plane can be dangerous. The material used in a flying car must therefore be both light and strong. Design. A road vehicle needs greater flexibility than an airplane. An airplane needs to be aerodynamically designed for better flight. The conclusion? A flying car should be small enough to fit on the road and big enough to fly. The requirements increase if the personal aerial vehicle has to be parked in a garage. Fuel. If it hadn't been for the oil crisis of the 90s, Ford Motors would have marketed the world's first flying car, Fulton Zero car, back then. The point here is, with rising fuel prices and diminishing fuel availability, a flying car will have to run on environmentally friendly, safe, and cheap fuel, for greater market success. Safety features. The reason why aircraft manufacturers haven't invested much in trying to offer low-cost private jets has probably had something to do with flight-related safety issues. Airplane accidents are more dangerous and fatal than road accidents. So, if the inventors of a flying car are aiming for the mass market, they'll have to make it safe. To do this, they'll need to include features like safety cages, airbags, parachutes and/or crash zones, etc. Yes, they'll still need to watch the weight of their flying car. In a personal air vehicle. Flight assistance. Not everyone wants to be a pilot. If it were, America's pilot training dropout rates wouldn't be 50%. Add to this the strict rules set by the FAA for any pilot's license, and you have a major problem for companies wanting to produce personal aerial vehicles. One way to avoid this is to make the vehicle entirely computer-controlled. Then, the owner will have to put the destination code or address into a GPS, or something similar, and the personal aerial vehicle will automatically fly to the destination. Apart from that, air traffic control and airport assistance will also be needed for flying cars. Because of all the requirements necessary to make it work, a working flying car may seem complicated and difficult, but it's certainly not impossible. For those who still think flying cars are just a modern fad, here's a thought. Horace Rackham, Henry Ford's lawyer, was told by the President of the Michigan Savings Bank, that the horse is here to stay, but the automobile is only a novelty, a fad, when he wanted to invest $5,000 in the automobile company in 1901. How that fad earned Horace over $12 million is history. The world, in all probability, will have flying cars in the air before the end of this decade. In conclusion, flying cars represent a fascinating intersection of technology and innovation, combining the principles of aviation with automotive engineering. As we have explored, these vehicles utilize advanced aerodynamics, propulsion systems, and cutting-edge navigation technologies to take to the skies. While there are still challenges to overcome, such as regulatory frameworks and safety measures, the potential for flying cars to revolutionize transportation is immense. As we look to the future, it is clear that the dream of soaring above traffic may soon become a reality, transforming the way we travel and connect with our world. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the future of mobility.